again, everybody. The cat has settled in. The cat has definitely settled in, so I've decided to sit here and do another video. Hello, sweetie. This is Soda. You probably haven't noticed because of the camera angle. Soda is very, very pregnant. Aren't you, darling? She got herself knocked up before I even realised she was a she. She's supposed to be a boy. I wanted a boy cat. For this reason, actually. We're in the country. Feral cats everywhere, hey? But by the time I realised, wait a minute, you're in season, and locked her up, deed was done. And of course it happens right before Christmas when I've got no money left. It was right after I bought this place. I had no money left to get her desexed. So the kittens can now pay for her desexing. Oh, but she's only a baby herself. You're still a kitten, aren't you? Anyway. I did just have a moment of going, wait, while I'm here, I can talk about, and then I got distracted. Didn't I, Soda? Yeah. At least I gave him a name that works for her as well. What was I going to talk about? I can't remember what I was going to talk about. If it's important, it'll come back, or they'll give me something else to talk about. Right, human thinking, human psychology. I spoke last time of literomancy and the use of words and the power of words and how that's used against us. Something else that has been, well, it's not so much used against us, but it's a really big hang up for humanity, is our thinking, our logic systems. Human beings are, I call it comparative logic. We are comparative logic creatures. This is defined by what it isn't. A chair is defined because it's by being near a table but not a table. The table is defined by it's near the chairs but it's not a chair. Everything is constantly being compared to something else. Fig is constantly being compared to what's that one? That one's the hello, what are you? Tropical Davidson's plum, which is being compared to custard apple. You're comparing leaf, you're comparing shape, you compare, you're constantly comparing things, and it's a comparative logic. At the same time as you are doing this, things are either equivalent, they are winner, or they are loser. Not the same as negative and positive, not the same as good and bad. Something can be a winner and still be bad. If a fight broke out on the streets, just a massive slugfest, just because he's the guy that threw the most punches and walked away from the situation doesn't make him the better person. It makes him the winner. We are conditioned to go with the win. The fact that we saw a fight take place and there was a winner in our brains says to win we fight. That's about as complex as it really gets a lot of the time. He kicks, he lose. He punch, he win. And that sets foundations. That's what I call a pre-response. Now, most of the time, people are in reaction. They are in the reaction part of their brain because they're being, the reins are in the hands of the ego. The ego is the fastest reacting thing. It's a reaction. It is not a response. Our response is far more calculated. Our response is human. Humans respond, ego reacts. If you're watching an argument between people and they don't really know what they're saying to each other because it's purely reaction and it's purely ego reacting against ego. And you'll probably fight, they will fight, they'll hiss, they'll spit, they might scratch and bite each other, getting really catty, but they've got completely no idea what they say to each other until they go their separate ways and they recall what happened And they're like, I didn't mean to say that. Why did I say that? I can't believe I said that. It's in the moment, it's completely irrelevant. There's no capacity to slow it down and think about what's going on because it's all just fire, ego, response. There's no reaction. It's all reaction. It's all reaction speed. The only thing faster than reaction speed is reflex because it's completely non-conscious, non-conscious, non-conscious. Wow, that was a struggle. And what we need to do as part of transforming ourselves from person into human being is finding all of our pre-responses and reprogramming them to a appropriate human response. That's the key. It's the appropriate human response. Humans are defined by their humanity. Okay, if you are not humane, you shouldn't be calling yourself a human. It's pretty simple and it comes down to literomancy. Okay, if you are not humane, you cannot be called a human. If you want to be human, you have to be humane with everything you do. So there are three phases. There's the ego reaction response. There's the pre-response, which is the collection of activities and behaviors that our brains carry of the winner situation. And then there's the human response, which is it's that whole just because you're a winner doesn't mean you are the better person. Human, I should say. It's going to be, yeah. The human response is the correct response. It is the correct way to handle and deal with the situation. The pre-response is the perceived appropriate. It's the we haven't been in this situation before, but we're going to borrow from other situations which are similar, comparative logic, and draw on those to make a decision about how we'll deal with this. There is a degree of thought there. There is the you are making a decision on how to act. Even if it's a poorly made decision, you have made a decision. It is not a reaction, it is a response. If the ego has made the decision, it is a reaction. Ego is something I also really need to talk to you about. Really need to clarify and nail down that word, because that is one of those words which is I've had to use because it's the best English has to offer, and it's because of the work of other psychologists, it's not truly appropriate for what we're doing. Sideways. So as part of being comparative logic, everything is being assessed. It is either equivalent, like fig, equivalent to plum, Davidson's plum, equivalent to custard apple. They are all fruit-bearing trees. There will be differences, like I might prefer figs. I might prefer the taste of figs because custard apples are very, very difficult to ripen. I might prefer the Davidson's plum because it's a very big tree that sets out a really large, beautiful canopy. Those become personal preferences. And what we need to worry about is when we're constantly in this state of comparing is we are also constantly judging. And this is again why I'm trying to stay away from positive, negative, better, worse, good, bad, because that judgment process is a perfectly normal, logical part of how we think. When we are constantly comparing things, we are judging things. We are judging their merits. They're judging their qualities, comparing those merits and qualities to other things. And that is how we go about our lives. And then it just comes down to winners and losers. In the animal world, they do the same thing. They are constantly thinking and comparing different things. They compare one moment to the next. A moment ago, the wind came from the north. Now it is coming from the east. Experience tells me storms come from the east. Experience tells me if I go down the valley, I'll have protection from the wind that is probably going to come with the storm. That's the general logic of it. The difference is that the animals don't, whilst they do have a sort of sense of win and lose, like as I said, down the valley, protection from wind equals a win. If I go up the mountain, I'm going to be in the wind, that is a lose. So they do have that sense of gain, no gain, I guess. In the horse world, they refer to it as old hat. Did you achieve anything? No, so I'm not going to do it anymore. But in humans, it's added. There's an added layer to that, in that as we are constantly watching and learning, and others are constantly watching and learning from us. And this is where you have to be very careful about media and entertainment. Stories are there to teach us how to handle situations before we get there. The old myths and legends and stories around the campfire are there to give us our pre-response, so that if we find ourselves in a similar situation, we have something in our head, some way to comprehend and deal with it. The sun's coming up. The sun's coming up. I'm kind of comfortable. And we've now moved that into our common entertainment, movies, TV shows, books to a certain extent. We really get into our stories. We still really get into our stories. But have a look at what they are teaching us. It is psychological conditioning. Stories are there to give us the pre-response. And all we learn from movies these days is drama. Drama, drama, drama. That drama is an expected part of life. That drama is the foundation to relationships, because all these movies, even the ones about true love, there's drama, there's love triangles, there's fighting, there's cheating, there's infidelity. It's just, so by the time our youths are facing their first relationship, they already have a vast understanding of how relationships work, and it's all negative, it's all wrong. I completely understand how this next generation, why they're not going on dates, why they're not meeting people. I can understand completely why birth rates are down, because we're being taught so much independence that codependence is being completely overruled and overwritten. Abby, no. And this is where I was talking about a couple of videos ago, when I was talking about the attacks on the spiritual, the attacks on our physical, on our emotional, on our mental bodies. This is how it happens. This is how it's done. They take something which is fundamental to human development, which is myth, legend, story, etc., to give us these pre-responses. And they use that and manipulate us into being people instead of human. People are dramatic. Okay? This is why people are dramatic. To be a human being, you need to step out of the drama. You need to step out of even the pre-responses. You want to go through and you want to program your own pre-responses. And this is something I'm going to teach you in the coming weeks. Probably months. I think it's going to take us a while to get there. But that is part of what I'm here to teach you. It's to step out of being a person, out of the head of a person, give the ego back to the person, and walk away a human being. I think that's enough for today. Between the sun and the animals, and I still haven't had my coffee. Have a lovely day, everybody, and salutations.